come available again. So sometimes the clients are like, well, of course, we'd love to have a backup offer, even though it looks like this one's going to close for sure,
Yeah, that's always.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh, no.
half the keyboard and half the part.
Oh, no. So it's not like you just like don't have
Yeah.
connection. It's like,
Everything else is fine, it's just the keyboard is not working.
oh,
So I have to use a different type of speaker.
who needs a keyboard? All right. Well, you guys good if we get started? Okay. So keeping every lead is our subject today. I think, so last class was probably leading into this on like generating or capturing leads. Is that right? Were you guys here at the last one? Okay. Let's see. Oh, these ones are my slides. Maybe. Okay, why does this not want to keep going? Okay, I think this is going the right way now. Okay, so keeping every lead. So we're past the step of capturing leads, which we talked a little bit about. So we're capturing leads, we're just making sure we have enough information so we can actually reach out and contact them, right? So we talked a little bit about if you are marketing open houses or marketing a listing, even if it's not your listing, being able to, like, you might get some messages if it's on social media, but then making sure you ask for the phone number or whatever it is so that you can actually reach out and contact them. Open houses are a great way to organically get leads they're at least warm leads, right? Like an actual person, you've met them or they've reached out about the open house and you can get that information. But even a more cold lead, like we want to keep those leads because the goal is to turn them into somebody that you've met, right? Or you've at least had a voice-to-voice conversation with. And I am a super strong believer of keeping every lead, following up with every lead. Like that is really the core of what will drive your business. So like lead generation is super important. That should be on your calendars, like every week, have that time blocked. Make sure you're doing that. But it's like, okay, what does that look like, right? Like, what do you want your lead generation to look like? The less you have to think about it, the more you have it like in processes, the more efficient you're going to be because you're not going to have to spend that time thinking, who am I going to call today? What am I going to talk about? What am I going to do? So we'll talk a little bit about some processes and some plans that will help with that. This is not going the right way. Let's see here. There we go. If I use the keyboard, it is. We'll do that. Okay. So we'll just start like easy question. So what's lead follow-up? What does that look like to you guys?
Big thing I've been doing is sending cards to people.
Okay.
I'm getting married next month. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm sending like announcement cards.
Yep.
And people have been super receptive to even the ones without the announcements in them, just saying like, hey, I appreciate you talking to me. I got a mentor in Payson from it.
Awesome.
So it's really good following up by a letter and like, especially voice calls is the best.
Yes, for sure. People love a handwritten note. Like they just don't get those anymore, right? And it's personable. It's a great touch. And I think you get great responses because you're probably sending a handwritten card, but then you're getting a text or a phone call response to it, right? Like, thank you, I got your card or whatever. No, that's perfect. What else? What are some other things? What does lead follow-up look like?
A lot of my leads are just SOI.
Okay.
So whenever I see them, you know, at a party or at just a gathering, I always make sure to check in, not necessarily talk about real estate, but just check up on them, make sure how they're doing, and
Good.
start conversations.
Yep.
Yeah.
And how many times, even if you don't bring up real estate, does real estate get brought up?
Yeah, they bring it up.
Most of the time, right? Yeah. Yep. Hey, how are you? Good, thank you. What's your name?
Matt.
Matt, I'm Tana. Nice to meet you. So we're talking about keeping every lead. So we're really in like the lead follow-up, okay? And so I think that's a great opportunity. So if you're going to events, parties, things like that, where you're running into your SOI, like that's a great opportunity. Like put a note in your phone and then give those people a call the next week or send them a text. And like, hey, it was so good to see you at whatever, you know, like good to catch up. And same thing, you don't need to talk about real estate, but like at some point too, like asking for those referrals too. Like, hey, like we ended up talking about real estate. Thanks so much for asking what I'm up to. You know, I'd love it if you have anybody that, you know, is needing to buy or sell that you send them my way.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, I'm here for you. You know, that's super natural, right? And I think we get in our own way a little bit because like I'm asking friends and family for referrals. But if people ask you those questions, do you get offended? No. And most of the time it gets you thinking, right? You're like, oh, I actually do know somebody that, you know, or when somebody does ask you about a certain service, you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I saw what's his face and he's, you know, he's doing real estate now and whatever it is. So just keep in mind, and you can't lose what you don't already have, right? So asking for a referral or whatever it is, you don't have the referral.
Yeah.
So you're not losing anything. You have nothing to lose, right? Okay. All right, let's see. So like it's kind of crazy, but when you think of the average person, they're likely to move every 7 to 10 years. So you think about all the people that you know and all the people you're going to meet and talk to. On average, people are going to move an average of 7 to 10 years. So if you've got, you know, a couple hundred people in your SOI, and you're generating leads on a daily, weekly basis, like you've got a percentage, you've got a chunk of people that are going to transact. So if you're staying top of mind, they're going to think of you when that time comes, right? Like our job is not to push along their timeline. Our job is just to be there and be the professional that they can reach out to, top of mind when they're ready to make that move or when they know somebody that's ready to. But okay, so we talk about possible business. We want to move them to probable business and move them to profitable business. So possible business is going to be like people we're meeting or talking to for the first time, leads that we're generating, you know, people at open houses, things like that. And then probable business, like, okay, like they're out going to open houses, they are looking for homes, or they're looking for an investment property, whatever it is. You know, so we want to nurture them a little bit more, right? We definitely want to stay top in mind. So we talk about this a lot. If you aren't first or second in their mind, you probably won't get the business. So if somebody, a friend, a family, a lead, somebody you know knows 5 realtors and you haven't done the job of staying top of mind, their first 1 or 2, then you probably won't get their business. It doesn't matter that you would have taken the best care of them. Doesn't matter that, you know, you're ready, willing, and able to help them. If you haven't stayed top of mind, they're just not going to think of you. Okay, let's see. All right, so these are some of the processes. I'm going to add one in here. I don't think the 8x8 is on here, but so we're talking about leads. This is one of the processes in the MREA. 4 touches, which is a quarterly phone call. So this is with your SOI too. Like on a minimum, you should be having like 4 voice-to-voice conversations with everybody that you know. So however you want to track that, there's a systematic way to do it, a DTD2. Have you guys all heard of that? So that'll make sure you're getting in contact with everybody that you know, voice to voice, at least 4 times a year. And then 12 touches. So that's a monthly email or a newsletter, a market report, or a video. When I talk about a video and a market report, those are probably the 2 easiest things, like until you are, and of course you can set up monthly emails and send that out to all of your SOI. But if you're kind of working in a beginning capacity, maybe you're not on a team, working kind of solo, figuring out like, what can I do? Like, maybe you're not super comfortable with a marketing email or whatever. A market report or a video is so easy. So that would be either by email or text. You do an actual video, like you're just talking to them and then you're sending that to them. And it makes it a little bit more personable. But it can be one that you send out to the masses too. Just like, hey, I wanted to let you guys know this is what the market's doing. This is what I'm seeing. You've probably seen this or that in the news. And just want to let you know if you have any questions, I'm here for you. A quick video like that. A market report might be just like you've probably seen how Utah Real Estate sends you out a monthly report, right? It shows you what the market's doing. And so that's a pretty broad one. That one's, for the whole MLS, the sales, the median home price, those kind of things. But it's a really simple like screenshot that's done for you already. That's a market report. That can be an email that you send out once a month to people. Like, that can be a thing that you do. You provide a market report every month. You can personalize it a little bit more. If you use like rapid stats, you can do one for each area. Like, you can do one for Provo and then send one to all your people in Provo. You can do one for Orem, send one to all your people in Orem. But those are just kind of some ideas. When you're getting those 12 touches, it should be some sort of, a little bit more automated, not taking quite so much of your time, but getting those touches. And then 2 additional touches would be a promotional direct mail, a magnet or something like that. You can do a printed market report. So like we talked about doing like something like a card, you can do a card, but also send them a little market report. One thing that I have done, I'll lose my spot here. Like, here's my little magnet. It's a dishwasher magnet. So they just flip it, clean, dirty. And I will just do a little handwritten note, throw one of these in it. I have a little pamphlet that I have too, that's like my team's pamphlet, so it's already done for me. But if you don't have something like a pamphlet, just do a printout of a market report, something that has to do with real estate. But, just something like that, or the handwritten card, or maybe both, and you just throw that in and send it to them. And it's so funny, like I get such great, like I get feedback from my dishwasher magnet, And then it was kind of funny. I was helping a buyer buy a home that one of my partners had listed. And when I was doing the open house for that home, I noticed his magnet. It was a different magnet. It had like kitchen conversions or whatever. It was probably 8 years old. Like, he looked totally different, looked 8 years younger, and it was on their fridge. I'm like, they probably had that magnet on their fridge for 8 years, and now he's selling this house for them, So like just showing like those touches really do, like people like them, and it does help you stay top of mind too. And then doing some sort of event, party, get together as new agents, especially like before you're actually transacting and making money, like that gets a little harder to do, right? But you can totally do something. It doesn't have to cost very much money. Like, so when I first started here, I had left a job. I was a director of a mental health clinic. I had left that job. I had like this core group of like 30 people that I just love, like therapists, nurse practitioners, receptionists, people that I worked with for a long time. And so I left, and once it took me about 6 months before I could really leave my job and go full-time in real estate. And it was sad leaving all of those people, but they were also super excited for me. I just reserved this room and I did a barbecue. So like it was super cheap, and it was like 30 people that were all super supportive of me. And they've been one of my biggest referral resources. Like they send their family, they send their friends to me. It wasn't necessarily because of the barbecue, right? But it gave me that opportunity to like take all those people I had relationships with already and be like, hey, this is what I'm doing, right? I mean, and you have a space here. It makes you're like, I'm legit. Look, this is my office. This is my building, And so something like that, like you can use these spaces for free, and you can have little events like that. You can do a game night, you can do pizza, something, try to figure out a way to tie it to real estate, but you can do events for very, minimal cost too. You can always get together with other agents too, to kind of figure out how to maybe share some costs and things like that. But just kind of some ideas there. Do you guys have any questions on any of that so far?
For like addresses to send, mail and stuff,
Yes.
how do you ask for because I find myself struggling with that. Like I just have their phone number, but
Yeah.
asking for their address is like kind of like a gray area. Like I haven't gone that far.
Yep. So there's kind of two different things, right? People like friends and family, right? Just ask them. Like get out of your own way and just ask them.
Yeah.
People that you don't know. And one more thing, it is a little bit of an expense, but it's super affordable if you do it through UCAR. There is an app called Forewarn. I think every agent should have it, mainly for safety reasons. Yep. So if you don't have Forewarn, reach out to UCAR, just like message, I'm spacing her name, it's like Susie or something over there. But and just ask them how much Forewarn is and if they can send you the link to get it. Yes. So don't get it on here. Do it through UCAR.
Okay.
Last week for like a screen of renter.
Yeah. And I do it before I go show an unmet person a house, because like I just recently, actually, I didn't use it. And one of my partners was like, hey, did you look him up on Forewarn yet? And I was like, oh, no, I didn't, And he looked him up and he was like, oh, sorry to tell you, he's a sex offender. And I was like, ah. And so he was like, my husband's a firefighter, so he's like home 4 days a week, right? So he was like, has Mike ever gone with you to showings? I'm like, yes, I've taken Mike on some showings before. He's like, well, if Mike's not available, I can go with you. And so I was like, oh, perfect. So for a safety reason, like that's huge too. So let's see.
Ask you about that.
Yes.
So you brought your husband with you to showings before?
Uh-huh. Yep.
So would it be weird? I just thought of that because I have my fiance and we go on walks all the time.
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff like that, and she would love to do showings with me. Do you think there would be an advantage to having your fiance with me to do showings, like a relationship advantage to build rapport with the clients? Or is it kind of just a distraction?
It could go one way or the other. Yeah. So with my husband, it's like I introduce him as, I'm like, this is my husband and my business partner, because like he's my business partner. Like we run Bagley Ventures together, right? And so like he's not a real estate agent, but he is my business partner because we run the back end of the business together. So I do try to keep it really professionally that way. This is my husband and my business partner. I mean, you could technically call her your showing assistant, like, hey, this is my showing assistant and she's my fiance, like,
Yeah.
and then just, you can definitely fill it out and just try to keep it more professional. Especially if she has an interest in real estate, or wants to be a part of that in some way, shape or form down the road, it could be really helpful too. So you just kind of want to fill that out. Yeah. Yes.
So you work with your husband?
Yes.
Would you have any tips for someone who might consider like bringing their partner into like just assisting them on like day-to-day tasks?
Yeah, so there's so many different ways to do it. So we've worked together in a lot of different capacities. We ran a construction company together, and we lost our company in 2008. So when everything crashed, we lost our construction business. But we ran that together. He was obviously he was the one out there doing the work, running the crew, doing the bids, everything else. I did our payroll, I did our books, I did all of that. We worked really well together. We've renovated a house together, right? And some couples are like, that will cause a divorce. We loved doing it together, but we had to kind of like divide the roles too. It was very much like, you have the say so in X, Y, and Z because that's your expertise. And I get to kind of make the decisions on A, B, and C because that's my expertise. So like, once again, it just really comes down to communication. And I would say if you were going to, like, in some capacity, if she were going to join you at some time, go sit down with a couple of agents that work together, like Brady and Becca Summers, Ty and Sally Price. They run their businesses completely different, So like Becca and Brady, Brady is a licensed agent, but he's not the one out like showing homes and things like that. Like, he's very much doing the back end on like the marketing and the books and everything like that, and Becca's more the face of their business and working with the clients. Ty and Sally, they both work with clients. He works really well with some clients. She works really well with others. They both do lead generating individually and together. So they run very different businesses. It can look lots of different ways. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, I know we have kind of found from past experiences that we work really well together and we enjoy it. And, we know the parts that are challenges and stuff like that too. So yeah, but I would definitely, if you get forewarned, don't just do it through the app store because it'll charge you full price. If you do it, and you won't get all of the benefits too, because you are a licensed agent and you have a need for this, like, you can get it through UCAR, I think, because it's like $75 a year.
I used my partner from Phoenix.
Oh, okay.
Sales partner, so I don't really know.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm on the SLC board. Do you
Oh,
know if they
okay.
have a discount too, or is it just UCAR?
I bet they do. I think all of the boards do. Yeah. So
So I do need it.
I'm trying to remember because I have to renew it every year or pay for it every year. It's like $75 a month. But for safety reasons, that's worth it. But I use it all the time just to see if someone's legit, like if I'm getting a call and, I don't know, it seems like they're giving me some sort of runaround or whatever, I'll just look them up and forewarn. And if if no name or address comes up, then I'm like, oh yeah, I think they're just spamming me. So it saves me time that way, but you can get addresses this way too. So that is super helpful. So like, if you've met somebody at an open house, you have their name and their phone number, you can plug in their phone number here and it'll bring up their name. You can click on it and find their address. So super helpful. So you can do that, but then you can also see it shows bankruptcies and criminal histories. So sometimes it'll say like they have like 30 something charges, but you look it up and it's all speeding. And so you're like, oh, I'm not worried about it. Yeah.
So I'm guessing you ask them before, like, hey, is it cool if I send you some mail or like a postcard or anything?
I don't. I just start sending it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You never get like, hey, how'd you get my address or?
Nope. Yep. I don't think I've ever had anybody ask me. It just happens to be they're like, oh, I got something in my mail.
Yeah.
And it happens to be that agent I met at the open house. They must do a lot of business. Like, oh, they work in this area. So, because you kind of think about it too. Like if you've gotten something in your mail from an HVAC guy, a realtor, anything, your first thought isn't, how did they get my address? You're just like, oh, okay. And if it's a valuable piece of mail, yeah, exactly. So if it's something that, like, don't just advertise yourself, provide something of value. So if you're sending a postcard, you're sending a newsletter or something, like, provide something of value. Maybe it is, like, right now we're going into fall, maybe a little checklist of things homeowners should do on their home before winter hits. You know, something like that. In the spring, you can do a spring cleaning list broken down, or things that they should do for spring maintenance, things like that. So just provide something of value. And if you have any questions, like, but aside from Googling it, you know, there's so many resources out there too, as just like, what is something valuable? So we're on connecting. If you have somebody you've at least had some sort of voice contact with, whether they were maybe kind of a colder lead, you were advertising an open house on Facebook and they reached out to you and you got their phone number, or you met them at an open house, or if you have any sort of leads coming through a website or anything like that. So anybody that you have talked to, I highly recommend putting them into what's called an 8x8. So that's going to be 8 touches in 8 weeks. So you're going to have some sort of contact with them once a week for 8 weeks. We want to cement you in their mind, right? And so a couple of different ways that that's going to look like. Let's see. Would each of you want to text me? Just text me just your name, and then I'm going to, and I'll send it right back. So it's just 801-489-1897. Because I did not go print these out. Thank you. And it is just right in the MREA. And also, when I was a newer agent, everyone always said MREA, and it took me forever before I knew what they're talking about. Does everyone know what I'm referring to? Okay, yep, so millionaire real estate agent. So and it was one of those things where I'm like, I've heard it too many times, I can't ask now, right? Or I would just forget. I'm like, what are they talking about? They keep saying MREA, and I'm like, oh, it's that book I haven't read yet. So if you haven't read the whole book yet, I highly recommend that you do it. Even just download it on Audible and listen to it while you're in the car, like until you make it through it. And once you do that, you're going to want to go back and listen to it 3 or 4 more times. Like, it just has, it's just the basics, right? And the basics that work. Like I said, sometimes you're tweaking things, you're making it a little more personal for you, but processes that work, if done consistently, they're in the book. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? May I look at this one too? I love this one. So this one I dove into last fall when the market got really tough. Yep. So shift. This is all about a shifting market. Our market's constantly shifting, right? But this is going to help you shift with the market. It's going to help you understand what's happening when the market's changing too. And it helps you to not be afraid of those changes that are happening, whether they seem really tough. Like, this was when I dove into this last fall. The last fall? Yeah, it was last fall. Like, interest rates were going to 8%, inventory was climbing, everybody was kind of freaking out, nobody was buying, like the brakes went on, right? Last like August through November. And I dove into shift, and I was like, it just really helped me have an understanding of what was happening with the market. And you're like, this is normal. This is normal, and it's going to shift again, and I'm going to be ready for the next shift. And these are the things I should be doing in a down market. These are the things I should be doing to prepare for a ramped up market. So everything you're doing right now, you're going to see the fruits of it in 3 to 6 months. You're not going to see it tomorrow. You're going to see it in 3 to 6 months. So in 3 to 6 months, when you're doing multiple transactions, you're going to be really busy with those transactions, right? You can't let lead generation fall to the wayside, because the lead generation you do in 3 to 6 months is going to be your business in the next 9 to 12 months. So it just really solidifies the things you should be doing in the different markets and understanding the different markets too. So it's like, we don't have anything to be afraid of. We just need to keep doing the things that work, and we need to do them on a consistent basis. Okay, but I just sent you the 8x8 that's out of the MREA. And I have one that's tweaked a little bit. I'll send this to you too. It has a couple of typos on it though, but so if you'll just ignore those. But this is kind of the 8x8. So 8 touches in 8 weeks, because sometimes, and I actually had kind of let this fall by the wayside for a little bit. And then I just felt like I was just calling my leads over and over. I was just calling and just texting, calling and texting. I had my automated stuff going on too, like monthly emails and things like that my team does. But I was just calling and texting. I'm like, okay, if I'm that person, I'm annoyed with me, right? So like, why have I not been doing my 8x8s anymore? So this is something I have recommitted to recently. So let's just kind of go over each step real quick. So like week 1, I'll go over this one, and then I'll go over the one that I have that's tweaked a little bit. So week 1, drop off a letter of introduction, or your personal brochure, or market report, and your business card. So it doesn't have to be all of those things, but something. So it says drop off, but you're probably just going to put that in the mail, right? So if you can't get their address by then, like that's okay. Like go ahead and just do another phone call. Week 2, send something else. So sending and ideally these are people that you've talked to, so you've been able to get their address, okay? Send a recipe card, an inspirational card, a community calendar, or market stats. So it's a little bit more personal, right? So like maybe they're in Orem, you're going to send them a market report for Orem, or you're going to send them a community calendar for Orem. And if you're doing this for everybody, then it makes it easier, right? If you're like, I have 10 people in Orem that are on an 8x8, I'm going to send these 10 people all the same thing. Week 3, kind of same thing. Pick something different that you didn't do before, and you're going to send that to them. And then week 4, you're going to make another phone call. So at this time, you're actually, you're able to say, hey, did you receive that market report I sent you? What did you think? Did you have any questions? And then ask them like, hey, are you looking right now? Do you know anybody that's looking? Tell me where you're at with things. I use that a lot. I just say, you tell me where you're at with things, because we want to get them talking. They don't want to just listen to us talk like you guys are listening to me this whole time. But asking lots of questions, giving them a chance to talk. And, so I use that a lot. Hey, tell me where you're at with things. And so week 5, sending a free report. Week 6, sending a real estate investment or house maintenance tip. And once again, like you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Like there's lots of these resources. KW Westfield has a ton. The MOFers, right? Like Shoni has a link with all of the MOFers. Like just pick something and use it. 7, so something like a refrigerator magnet and notepad. You can do a giveaway or something like that too. One kind of note on giveaways, I really try to maximize, like if I'm going to spend $50 total, then like I don't want to do a whole bunch of different giveaways. I'll do that to everybody all at the same time. Or if I'm doing like 6 open houses in a month and I have a feedback sheet they're completing, and I'll have like, hey, complete this feedback sheet to be entered into a $50 Amazon gift card giveaway. Well, I'll do that drawing once a month, right? Because that way I'm spending $50 once a month instead of spending $50 once a week or every time I'm doing something like that. But giveaways are a great way to get people to interact too. And then week 8, making another phone call. So once again, like they've received some value from us, right? So for like 3 weeks, they're receiving value from us, and then we're calling them. 3 more weeks, they're receiving value, and then they're getting a phone call from us again. So by then, we've like solidified ourselves as top of mind for them, and we're providing value. We're not just bugging them for business, right? And then at that point, you can kind of decide like, okay, they're going to be a nurture and I'm going to contact them once a month now for the next year. Or like, oh, like they're going to be ready to transact, like, you know, and you kind of fill it out too. When you're making those phone calls, you're going to fill it out. You're going to try to set an appointment with them. If they are looking at all, if they're a first-time home buyer and they have lots of questions, if they are just, you know, they're wanting to get out and see homes, have lots of questions about the market, like set that appointment, like do what you can, ask for the appointment. Once again, you can't lose what you don't have. You don't have the appointment when you give them a call. They say no, that's okay. You're just going to keep them in that 8x8.
What do you use to get like the magnet to the notepad, and all of that stuff?
Yeah, I can get a couple resources for you. I work on a team and I have a TC and she kind of does that for me. But there's tons of mail order places you can get them from. Like you just, you know, try to do really inexpensive, of course, but provide value. So, but I'd be happy to send some resources to you. I think the place where we had got these before actually doesn't do them anymore. So I think she was actually looking into a new place right now.
Okay.
So I can get that for you, but they do all sorts of different things.
Yeah.
Yeah. The magnets were kind of one of the more like least expensive, and I got a ton of them. And so like I've been using the same magnets for over 2 years and I haven't ran out yet. So, you know, and I'm like, they're still valuable. I'll send you guys a picture of this one too. Sorry, I should have just texted all of you, so I had it in a group one, but that's okay. Just ignore the typos. And then where you see where it says FU, we're not telling the client FU. That is just old medical shorthand, that's for follow-ups. Like that's official in the medical world, so. We had this it's funny because we had this in our team meeting this last week, and one of my team members, she used to be a nurse too. And so when we got to number 5, Dan on our team was like, call the client or text FU. And I was like, I knew what it meant because I come from the medical world. And so he was like, oh, I didn't think about that. I'm like, yeah, it's proper in the medical world. It's follow-up. But okay, so this is a little bit different than the one we just went over. I love this one because it's changing up what we're doing a little bit more, okay? So calling, texting, or email and ask the questions. Is there anything I can do for you today? Is it okay if I keep in touch, right? And that's very like non-committal, no pressure. Like, is it okay if I keep in touch? 99% of the time, yes. The next week, so video week. So like if you're super comfortable on video, awesome. I'm not, but just do it anyways, right?
Press record like on camera.
Yep. So, and you can send it. It's funny because I feel like if it's a male client that I don't know, I'm probably going to send it to an email, like, I don't want anyone to be like, why is this girl sending you text videos? Maybe that's just me getting in my own head. I don't know. But kind of same thing. Just send it to them their email right from your phone. Yep.
Yeah.
So just do a quick video. Just say, hey, like, just wanted to reach out. We had chatted about a week ago, or I met you at that open house about a week ago. It was so good to talk to you. Are you still out browsing for homes? I'm just here for you if you need anything. Like, short and simple, right? But it's just more personal. So it's no pressure. It's more personal. Like, hey,
It's not
I'm
like
here for you.
It's not like you mass sent it either. It's straight.
Yes, exactly. Yep. So it'll take a little bit more time, but same thing. It's just becomes part of your process.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, on Wednesdays at 9 a.m., I am doing my 8x8s. So that means for 2 hours, I'm going to be sending personal videos to everybody in my 8x8 that's on week 2. And then I'm going to be sending a handwritten card to the other 10 people that are on week, whatever, you know? So if you have it as a process, it becomes much easier. Week 3 is even simpler. If you're not already friends with them on some sort of social media, you're going to send them a friend request. Or you're going to connect with them on LinkedIn. Like some sort of social media, you're going to connect with them. They're going to look at your profile and see that you're legit. So it's really good if you're doing open houses or you're marketing other people's listings for them. If you don't have listings of your own, I highly encourage you to be marketing other people's listings, because as you connect with people, they're going to check you out on social media. You want them to see that you are doing business, whether that's, even if that's just marketing open houses and other people's listings. Okay. I think was the last week was on social media, right? So you guys know like the 10-5-1 rule for social media?
10 likes, 10.
Yeah, like
comments.
10 comments or likes, 5 messages, and 1 post a day. Yep. So try to be as consistent as you can with that. I sometimes do really well on that and sometimes I don't. When I'm doing really well on that, when I'm running into people at the gas station or soccer games or whatever, they're always bringing up real estate to me. So when I'm being consistent on that, like I'm not even bringing up real estate to my SOI ever. And they're like, oh my gosh, like I saw this house that you were doing an open house on, or it looks like you're like doing so good, like you're doing a ton of business or whatever. So highly recommend that. But yeah, you're going to connect with them on social media, some way, shape, or form. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is. Week 4, sending a market report. Just once again, there's that value. Be specific to their community, especially if they might be a seller. If they own a home, be specific to their community, because everybody always wants to know, what can I sell my house for, right? Call and don't text FU, text a follow-up. For that one, you can totally leave a voicemail, you know, hey, did you receive that market report that I sent you? Let me know if you have any questions, or if you want something more specific for your house, I'd be happy to do that for you, you know. Trying to be able to like do a CMA for somebody is great. And then week 6 would be a handwritten note. 7, providing some information. So like keeping current matters is a great resource. You know, they have great articles and like reports and buyer seller guides and things like that that you can send to people. And then week 8, kind of same thing. You're just reaching out. Hey, is there anything I can do for you? And then at that point, if they're not ready to transact, you're just going to kind of treat them more as like SOI. They're your sphere now. You've been in contact with these people for 8 weeks. You've communicated with them and provided them value for 8 weeks straight. Like they're your sphere now. They're your people that you know. So you're not going to treat them so much as a lead anymore, but you don't want to lose touch with them either. So move them over to your sphere, and then you're going to have that regular contact, like more your 36 touch that you do for the year. Okay. Any questions or thoughts on that? That is make offer for immediate response. MOF. Let's see, right? No. Make offer for IR. MOFIR. Make offer for immediate response. So if you're sending an email, having like a link or something, click here to request a personalized market report. Click here to enter this giveaway, like something where you can get some engagement. And Shoni has like a whole page of them that you can just copy and paste and use. He has graphics for them, things like that. So they're really valuable. So if you're like, I don't know what to send, I don't have time to create these emails, things like that, like they're already there for you. Shoni in the group here does such like, they're a wealth of knowledge and they just share it freely. So that's huge, because a lot of people are like, these are my things that work for me and I want all the business, and it's just not the way it is here. So, which I think it's been huge. It's been a huge part of like my success too, is just having like really smart, really successful people being willing to just share everything that they have. So. All right. So yeah, we just talked about like you're just cementing yourself in their mind as the realtor that they're gonna, reach out to when they're ready. And 36 touch. Are you guys all kind of familiar with that? We talked about 36 touch, how many times to stay in touch during the year, how to do it. You said there's lots of different ways to do it, but that's all in the MREA as well. And you can kind of personalize that to what works for you. Okay, so that's what we went over. Okay, so yeah, just some things for you guys to kind of consider and think about, just like what are your strengths when you're working with people? Like for me, I love connecting with people in person. I do well over the phone, but I don't like it, and that is one of the things too. I'm like, you don't have to like it, you just have to do it. But I don't love talking to people on the phone. I don't love making that follow-up phone call, but I do it, and it usually ends up going better than I planned. But just I think that is one of my strengths too, is I've gotten really good at just asking a lot of questions. So when I'm on the phone, I'm just asking people questions. Sometimes I get in my own way and I find myself just talking and I'm like, I've got to stop and ask the questions. And that's when I really get further with people. What are some reasons I might have for contacting a lead? So what do you guys think? Like, what are some reasons you can contact a lead? Yep, for sure. Yep, definitely.
Not even for like real estate, just like you said, the homeowner tips, winter's coming, things you should check before snow comes.
Yep, for sure. And you can ask them, like, do you need a referral for anything? Like, everything working okay at your house? Or, do you need if you ever need a referral for HVAC, pest control, whatever, you let me know.
Even just with Halloween coming, it doesn't have to be like, hey, the best haunted houses or best movies or something like that.
For sure. Yeah. No, that's fantastic. Yep. And people engage with that, right? Yeah. Yep. And yeah, like if you have a whole bunch of people like that are maybe first time home buyers, then reaching out, being like, hey, like there's so many misconceptions about what it takes to get into a home for a first time. I used to always think you had to have 20% saved up. Like, is that something that you've had a question about? And it's amazing to me how many people really think you have to have a 20% down payment saved up. Like, I thought that for a long time because after 2008, you had to have 20% for a long time. And I just thought that was a thing. I didn't know it went away, So like just calling in, like if it's a first time home buyer, there's all sorts of things you can ask them about. Or, investors too, like, hey, there's a really cool new loan out for investors. Have you heard about it? So like talk with a loan officer, be like, hey, what's your best program for investors right now? Call your potential investors and be like, hey, there's this really cool program out right now. Have you heard about it? So all sorts of reasons you can be reaching out to people. Let's see. Yeah, and then just thinking about it too, like how you're using conversations to make sure you let people know that you're in real estate, make sure they know how to contact you, how to refer business to you. It usually comes up super organically, right? Because people say, what are you up to nowadays? Oh, I'm in real estate now. It's awesome. Oh, really? How long have you been doing that for? Oh, I'm just getting started, but I'm loving it. Whatever it is, say, I actually I did this and I was super apprehensive, but it went really well. I committed to myself 1 week. I was like, every person I know that I talked to this week, I'm going to ask them for a referral. And that's just what I told them. I said, hey, I made a goal for myself this week. Every friend that I talk to, I'm just asking for a referral. So we're talking. Do you have anybody, that you can think of? And of course it was like, oh, no, not right now, but when I do, and a couple of those people actually came back around in a month or 2 months or whatever and sent me referrals. So, I was like, it was kind of clumsy. It wasn't like scripted or anything. I literally was just like, I made a goal for myself this week, told myself everybody that I talked to, I was going to ask for a referral. Like, do you know anybody? And it was clumsy, but I was like, why was I so nervous about that? These people are my friends. So, and they totally supported me in my goal. But, and then really, really just like, when is the best time for you and your business to time block for lead follow-up? So just really like taking a look at things, being really intentional about your calendar. When I first got started, I was still working my full-time job. And at the time, I only had 2 kids at home. I have 4 kids, I'm down to 1. At the time, I had 2 kids at home, like playing soccer, and I was working my full-time job. Luckily, my husband was super supportive, and I was like, I'm gonna do this. And then I found a team to join, and the team was like, well, we're not really looking for somebody part-time, right? And I was like, well, I think this team's a really good fit for me, and I can commit 15 hours a week. Like, I can do 15 hours a week. And so like 10 of that was like lead gen, because I was just figuring things out, right? And I had a million people to contact, and a lot of that was getting people into my database and just figuring things out, right? But I committed 15 hours. And I think like that was key for me, was sticking to those 15 hours. And of course, things came up, like I'd have meetings at my other job that would go long, or emergencies over there, or kids that needed things. And I just solidified in my mind, if I erase, I must replace. And so if I was gonna not do lead generation at 4 p.m. when I had it scheduled, I was gonna move it somewhere. I didn't just take it off my schedule. And I think that was key for me. And I had people holding me accountable too, like my team was holding me accountable. So I think like, even like call each other Monday mornings, be like, hey, what's your lead gen schedule this week? Like, send me your calendar. I'll hold you accountable. You hold me accountable. Did you reach your goals this week? What are your goals? I'm going to set 2 appointments this week. I'm going to do 2 open houses. I'm going to call 100 people, and hold each other accountable. So that was huge for me. So I just share that because it was big for me then, and it's big for me now too. Let's see. How much time should it take to reach out to a lead? That should be really quick, right? So, I mean, if you're making a phone call, leaving a voicemail, if you're doing one of these little handwritten cards, it's going to take a couple more minutes, you know. If you're doing the videos or whatever, might take you a couple of minutes. But if you're like, okay, I need to make 25 contacts every day. And if each of those takes me 3 minutes, that's 75 minutes. That's really doable, right? And that's a good session. Like you contacted 25 people in one day in some way, shape, or form. Takes you about 75 minutes. That's awesome. Makes it a little more like, okay, I can do that, right? Yep. Okay. Questions? Okay. I guess tired of hearing me talk yet? Okay, what time? All right. Okay, it's only 10:30. I feel like I've been talking for so much longer. All right, let's see here. All right, so we have talked about this, and it's in the MREA too. This is, you know, this is your action plan for the year. This is how you're staying in contact with people. Really, like, I think it is just important that you plan it out for the year. We're in a great time right now for fourth quarter, and we have plenty of time to do business in fourth quarter. So I think a lot of times right now, people kind of like, okay, I'm moving on to 2025. So many agents do that. They turn all their energy into planning next year. It creates opportunities for the agents that are like, nope, I got my boots on the ground right now, right? I'm ready to do business right now. You see it happen in the beginning of summer too, like July. Like if you were here in July, the building's like empty almost every day. You'll see it here too. Like November, December, it kind of becomes a little bit of a ghost town. It creates opportunities because you're the ones that are like, I'll go do all the open houses. I'm going to offer to do showings. I'm going to market all the properties because everybody else is focusing on the holidays and getting ready for 2025. So it's actually a really good opportunity for you guys right now. Like you can really load your business for 2025 right now, but there's still time to transact and get some business done and close some deals this year. So aside from that, I'm like, yes, it is important to plan, but don't let all your energy get shifted into planning. Like make sure you're doing business and you're trying to transact like this quarter. But take some time, do some planning, because once you have that planned out, ultimately it's going to take you a lot less time once you're actually executing it, right? And then you're like, I don't have to think about it. I have a 36 touch. I have it planned out. And maybe you change that during the year. You're like, oh, I was going to do an email this month, but I'm going to do a market report instead. I'm going to do videos instead. Like, that's okay. You can make some changes, but plan it, put it on your calendar. Okay. You're like, okay, what day every month am I going to do either an email, a newsletter, a market report, a video, and put it on your calendar for the year. And kind of same thing. When am I sending out something in the mail? When am I sending a mailer? Put it in your calendar. When am I going to do an event? Put it in your calendar. Okay. All right. And we've talked a little bit about this, but just, the value propositions. And that can be with a MOFR, but it also can be like, hey, the best way I know to help you is to get together with you for 30 minutes in my office, talk about your goals, talk about the market, get a plan together. Like, when are you available? But that's for them, right? You're like, I want to provide some education, want to talk about your goals, be a resource for you. Here's my value proposition. Let's get together for 30 minutes in my office and talk about those things. So just the personal communication. Yeah, those phone calls, those handwritten notes, the more personal they are, the more impact they're going to have for sure.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Do you try to get them pre-qualified before you have that one-on-one sit down with them?
Nope. I want to just get them in the office with me.
Okay.
Yep. Like,
Or do you go out and meet them at their?
if it's a seller, I'll go out and meet with them at their house. Because then I'm gonna have some good conversations with them. I'm probably gonna have 2 or 3 conversations with them before I actually go out. Like, I'll set the appointment, but then I'm gonna call them the next day and be like, hey, I looked up some more information on your house. Does it still have an unfinished basement, or have you guys finished that? Get some more information, but I'm gonna go meet them at their house if it's a seller. Buyers, I'm always setting it up here at the office. I do have a friend on my team. She meets people at Kneaders all the time. She's like, hey, let me buy you a sandwich. Let's go meet and talk about your goals, and let me buy you a sandwich. I always just meet them. I'm like, hey, I have an office in Mapleton. I have an office in Orem, which is closer to you. What's a good day for you? So, and same thing, like, we have our offices, we have different offices. You're always welcome to use any of the offices. So if a buyer's like, oh, like, I live clear in Santa Quinn, like, hey, I can meet you at the Mapleton office, and then just call over to the Mapleton office and be like, hey, do you have an empty office I can use at this time? So, and it just kind of sets you up as the professional too. I have an office in Orem, I have an office in Mapleton. Which one's closer to you? What's a good day for you? But yeah, I don't worry about getting pre-qualified ahead of time. I think that can become a little bit more important, and some agents do that. They won't meet with somebody until they're pre-approved. I have found, like, if I can just meet with somebody, if I can get them to meet with me in person or at least over Zoom, they're going to be my client. Whether they're ready to buy, whether they can qualify right now or not, like, they're going to be my client if I can get face-to-face with them. So that's what I say. I say, just get the appointment. Yep. And then as you get busier and things like that too, you can decide if you want to be a little bit more selective and have them get pre-approved ahead of time.
Yeah.
Make sure you have a really good working relationship with a lender that is going to handle them the same way you're going to handle them, like value without the pressure, those kind of things. So, yeah. All right. So some ways and some places that we can find leads, right? So calls in, that's going to be, if you have a listing, and you get a sign up, you're gonna start getting calls, right? So listings can be gold in that way. Community events, like I said, like park cleanups, those kind of things. Open houses. I try not to spend too much time talking about open houses just because I feel like I talk a lot about them because they're one things that have worked really well for me. I still will do my own open houses. I'll still host open houses for other people. I'll do at least a couple a month and I get leads every time. Even if I don't have anybody come to the open house, if I have a dead open house, I'll still at least get a couple of people reaching out because I'm marketing it on social media. I'm just marketing it. I'll get flyers out and then be in person. So between those three things, I usually will get at least a lead or two, even if I don't have somebody come through the open house. And then I have done multiple transactions that have come from leads at open houses. And it's just a good way to organically meet people, get their contact information, add some people to your database, right? Social media marketing, that's not my strong suit, but I have had leads come in from social media marketing as well. That's usually from posting about listings, marketing open houses. I've done some boosted ads before, and the leads that I've had come from that nothing's panned out. Like, I don't think I've ever actually been able to get a voice-to-voice contact with any of the leads that have come from boosted ads, but some people do have some really good luck that way. Yeah, traditional marketing, mailers, things like that, your website calls out, and you can see it's highlighted there. I think a big part of that is just asking too, like, if you get one lead, you're going to ask that lead or that person in your SOI for another lead. Past clients, until you're transacting, that gets a little bit hard, but think about other people that you've done business with in some way, shape, or form. Just if you've worked with them in any capacity, kind of treat them like a past client, because they know you, right? And so just reaching out to them. You can purchase leads, client referrals, sign calls, blogs and newsletters. So those are, just some ideas of generating leads. One thing, I don't know why it stands out to me right now. I haven't actually done it, but I've thought about doing it. Is somebody said they had some really good success. They went to like one of the local gas stations that was close to them, and they set up a little table, and it was like, hey, if you fill out this little questionnaire. So the questionnaire was kind of like, hey, I'm looking to buy or sell in the next 3 to 6 months, or just some real estate, like super basic questions. If you fill out this questionnaire, here's a ticket for a free 32-ounce drink. And you talk to the gas station, owner or whatever ahead of time. So if you find like kind of a locally owned gas station, be like, hey, can I come and do this? And I'll, the first 50 people that, will fill it out, I'll buy their drink for them. And what, you want to give me a deal if I'm buying 50 drinks or whatever? So potentially you can spend $50 and walk away with 50 leads. So I haven't done it myself, but I was like, oh, and it kind of sounds fun too. I'm like, that's kind of fun. And you could put up maybe like signs ahead of time, be like, hey, if I'm going to do this on Saturday morning, could I put up a couple of little flyers on Friday or Thursday saying I'll be here buying free drinks on Saturday. So, and there's all sorts of ways to kind of generate business and get some leads coming in. But yeah, just asking lots of questions. Oh, what has you browsing? Why are you thinking about buying? What has you thinking about selling? What's that going to do for your family? Where do you want to go? I use that a lot. Tell me more. Oh, tell me more about that. And, what will that do for you and your family? So, hey, any questions or thoughts? You guys have any other ideas or things you've done or seen other people do that have kind of generated some leads?
Have you done anything with dogs? Like, I have this border collie that I take everywhere.
Oh, okay.
And I was trying to think of how I could combine that with the gas station idea. Like, can you think of any ways to incorporate dogs?
Let's see. I gotta ask my daughter. She's a big dog person, but she also does marketing for Built Bar. I gotta ask her how you would incorporate something like that. I mean, I'm thinking you could like do something at a dog park, you know, maybe you could set up a little table at a dog park and be like, hey, you can fill out my little questionnaire and I'll give you a ticket for a free drink. And they have dog treats or whatever. Or maybe you could give out the dog treat and then they could go buy the drink or whatever. Or you could even just do it with like, you could have a cooler full of sodas and water or something like that. And
You literally.
you could really do anything. Yes. Yep. So the only thing you have to be careful about is you can't pay somebody or offer a prize in exchange for a referral. So that's really the only thing that's kind of illegal. You can't offer something for a referral.
Yeah.
If somebody gives you a referral, you can give them a gift, but you can't say, I'm going to give you a gift if you give me a referral. Yes, that's against policies and get in trouble that way. But you can say, hey, if you'll complete this little questionnaire for me and, fill it out with your contact info, here's a free drink and a free doggy treat.
Because it has to be some sort of exchange.
Yeah, yep. You can get their personal information and offer, drinks, treats, gift cards, whatever for their information. But you cannot offer something in exchange for a referral. Yep. So if somebody gives you a referral, even if you ask them for one, like, hey, isn't there anybody that you know? Or, when you're asking your SOI, you're like, hey, I set a goal for myself. I'm gonna ask everybody I know this week for a referral, and they give you one. You can certainly turn around and give them a thank you gift, like a gift card or something like that. Yes. Yep. It has to be less than 150.
250.
Is it 250? They might have changed it. Okay. It used to be 150. Inflation, right?
So you can take them out to lunch.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. So as long as they didn't give you that referral because you promised to give them something else. Yeah, you can certainly do a thank you and stuff for them, especially if somebody just gives you a referral, like taking them to lunch or sending them a $5 Starbucks card or something is great. But then say that referral transacts and you close a deal, then that's when you're like maybe doing like the $250 gift, like, hey, I just really appreciate your business. They ended up being such an awesome client. We had such a great time. I just want to let you know I appreciated you trusting me to send your friend my way. So not like, hey, I'm going to give you a gift every time you send me somebody. Yeah. So you just have to be careful that way. Yeah. But I think it's a great idea, like figuring out, like if you're a big dog person, like how can you connect with the dog communities, right? Like the Facebook pages or whatever. Like you can be like, hey, I'm going to be at this dog park giving out free drinks on behalf of, whatever you call if you have a name for your real estate business or whatever. Hey, free drinks on behalf of whatever real estate on Saturday at this dog park. Bring your dogs for a treat, and get a free drink. So yeah, yep, it's a mini event, micro events. Yeah, you can do all the micro events you want and they don't have to cost you hardly any money. Find a sale on 12 packs of soda and dog treats, go and stock up and go hang out at the dog parks on if you're like, this dog park is always super busy, or this Facebook dog page or whatever, I can get people out. Yeah, you can totally do these little mini or micro events. Yeah. Yeah, and like you can probably get a deal, be like, hey, if I'm gonna commit to buying 50 drinks, can you give me a deal on it? I'm sure they will. So yeah. So lots of different ways, especially I think too, like when you're just getting started and you're like, okay, I have my family and friends and I'm doing a really good job keeping in touch with them, but I need more people. Like it really is like you just need more people. You've just got to be talking to people, getting in front of people and being top of mind. And then I'm like, if you do the dog park events or the gas station events, if you have success, then make it a regular thing, because then people are like, oh, I'm going to be here, next month too, or whatever. So, and then they're going to think about you when they're thinking about real estate. Yep. Yep. Because after you meet them at that event, you're going to contact them once a week for 8 weeks, and you're going to solidify yourself in their mind as their realtor of choice. Yep. You're going to get that relationship, right? All right. There we go. Anything else? Questions, comments?
it's real. I've never heard of it that way before, but I'm gonna start making tags for it in
Yes.
command.
Yep. For sure.
We just provide something of value with, when sending mailers, not just to provide your bio and info, like, you can include that, but definitely the mailer or the value for them.
For sure. Yep, definitely. Because you're like, everyone's advertising themselves, right? Every business is advertising themselves, but you want somebody to get something that they're gonna like keep or use, or it can be some benefit to them.
I'd already purchased my home, but a woman in Salt Lake had sent me a calendar that was magnetic once for the youth football. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
put that on my calendar. If I had been renting and I didn't know anybody, I probably would call her right then. So
For sure. Yep. No, those are huge. I think there's been like the football calendar ones. There's been one like around the time that school started. I think somebody on our team did one like, I can't remember, it was like there was like 12 best things you can say to your kid. Like, just different things, different ways you can uplift a child. Family conversation starters. And it was just like a little list of questions that you can like dinner time conversation and stuff like that, so all sorts of different things. And when I think of those, I'm like, oh, I want one of those. Oh, I want somebody to send me one of those, so for sure. Okay, so we're kind of already talking about, post lead follow-up, all the things you should be doing while they're a lead, and then turning them into your sphere after that. Like once it no longer makes sense for them to for you to contact them once a week, we're like, I've contacted you once a week for 8 weeks. We have a relationship now. You're now my sphere, we have a relationship. You're gonna go into my sphere and we're gonna stay in touch. Yeah, so you've established the relationship, they become a contact, they're in your sphere, they're in your database. So you're gonna move them. I know it keeps saying the 19 to connect, but those are kind of the two different action plans, like the 8x8 mixed with the 12. I think it has it a little bit different in the MRE, but this is the way that I like to do it, that I found has worked for me. And then moving them to that 36 touch. So sorry, this is a little bit repetitive, but some people like to really kind of see it in, the graphic form this way. But, once we've got them as a lead, we've got them as a contact, we're going to cultivate that relationship. We want to convert them to transact, and then we're going to get a referral from them, and then it repeats, right? So we kind of get the idea there. Yep, we talked about our high value touches, really providing value. And go. Okay. Well, I know I've kind of been talking about this. Anything that has kind of changed your way of thinking or like your mindset around following up with leads today?
The video, like
Okay,
shooting a video, I feel like that'll make a big difference rather than just texting them.
yeah, a way to stand out.
Yeah, and a lot with me, like you could see in person offline that I'm like really not emotional, but you could see like how I act, and through text I'm like so like bland, like
Gotcha.
you know what I mean? Like
You're not a man of many words through
like,
text.
through text, I'm like really straightforward, like this I'll see you there, like
Yep.
but through in person I make a better impression, I would say.
Yeah.
So sending a video would be better than just a plain text that I usually send.
And you're gonna feel more comfortable with that
Yeah,
stuff too.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that.
Can we do lunch?
Oh, yeah.
Someone saying stuff. I don't know if I would do videos,
Yeah.
but lunch is how I've heard the same thing. I just schedule one lunch with a person every week.
Yeah.
And I've done like 6 now. I've met a couple of lenders that have been really good that are now coming with me to like open houses and stuff like that. So that's the same thing as the videos. But then the other thing was systems, like the organization of how you're gonna stay on top of everything. That's so disorganized.
Well, and then it feels overwhelming too, when you have all of these things, You're like, maybe come away with a whole bunch of really good ideas and things that you're like, oh, that would totally work. But if you don't put them into a system, then it just becomes overwhelming and you're like, how do I even do that? Right. But if you just like have a step that you can start with and you can plan it out, get it organized, it makes all the difference for sure. Yep. And lunches are great. Like that's a great way. I stay in touch with my SOI that way too. Like I arrange date nights and lunches. Sometimes if I'm like am doing a really good job at following up with all my SOI, I get too many lunches scheduled. And then I'm like, oh, I'm going to lunch too many times this week. But I'm like, oh, that's a good sign. I've been calling everybody, you know? So, but yeah, lunches are a great way. And then even if it's just a friend and you didn't talk about real estate when you arrange the lunch, you know you're going to talk about real estate at lunch, right? You're not going to bring it up. They're going to ask you about business and how things are going. So, yep, for sure. All right, let's see. How does everybody feel about lead generating? So I have to ask. So when I got into real estate, I did not realize what it looked like. I did not realize that really my business was going to be like lead generation, right? It's about lead generation. It's about relationships. It's about solving problems. And I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. And I was like, I'm fascinated by real estate and I need a change in my life, you know, and like, this is what I want to do. Then I was like, oh, wait, like people don't just like come walking into open houses and want me to, you know, be the one to, because I really had the idea, I was like, maybe I'll work for a builder and just go sit in open houses, right? Like that was kind of my first thought. I was like, that's how I'll get my feet in the door, you know, I want to just go, because those are people that want to buy houses. They're coming out to the builders. And luckily I had a few conversations. I reached out to some friends that were realtors and I just like, hey, tell me about, you know, how you got into real estate. Tell me about your business. And then I was like, oh, this looks completely different than what I thought it was going to look like. So what are kind of your like thoughts about like the business we're in, about lead generating?
It's just reaching out to people is like the best, I feel like the best way to do it,
Uh-huh.
especially if, whether it's door knocking, whether it's social media, it's just getting those touches in would really make a difference from beginning agent to, hey, I have a couple deals, I know what I'm doing. Yeah.
For sure. Do you like doing it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've struggled for the past like couple months because I'm part-time also.
Yep.
So I'm just like, I wanna quit my job to do this, but
Yep.
I can't do that yet. So it's more of a mental thing than like a physical, I'm doing it. So
For sure. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, mindset in this business is huge. Huge. Yep. I know. And a lot of times on like lead generating stuff, I kind of come back to, especially if it's more like kind of the cold leads or whatever. I'm like, I don't have to like it. I just have to do it. And if I just do it, if I can just get into my rhythm, you know, then it's like not that bad. And then it gets fun when you get talking with people and you get setting appointments and things like that too. And once you first start to like see the fruits of it with a, you know, a transaction or two, and you're like, it works. They said it would work. It works. Yeah. Yep. But yeah, anything else? Any like thoughts about lead generating or like mindset issues around that?
Being dropping. Surprisingly, if it's like an investor type client or a referral partner that you're looking to establish a relationship with,
Yes.
it's way more effective than you realize. In my past experience, that's how I established most of my referring relationships for different type of jobs that require partners.
Yep.
So I'd say that maybe even though it feels uncomfortable, but dropping off like a piece of information that's relevant to whoever you're trying to establish like a referral relationship with your business card attached to the front of it, even if you just dropped off with your secretary, is way more effective for when you go pick up the phone and try to have a conversation with them and talk to them.
In person, you're saying?
Yeah, drop it off in person so they know you're a real warm body and not one of the 1,000 1,000 people that send them emails or
Yep.
text messages or random number, like, you know. So
Mhm.
then when you say, hey, I dropped this and that off, they'll stop and think for a second, did I get anything?
Yep.
And if they did see it, they'll talk with you, or they'll ask you what it was. So
Yeah.
that's good.
Like going out in person and hopefully you get a chance to see them. And if you don't, you're dropping it off at the office or maybe with a receptionist. But then there's your opportunity for your follow-up. You're giving them a call the next week or send them a text like, hey, I just want to make sure you got such and such that I dropped off for you, you know? And exactly, like you're like, I'm a real person that has time for you and I'm local and I'm ready to work with you, you know? So no, those are huge. And even with like your SOI or your sphere, and like we do drop-offs or pop-bys like twice a year. So I'll do that for all like past clients. Or people that we think might be close to transacting or people that have sent referrals to us. We'll do a pop-by. And usually we try to make them cute or silly or whatever, you know, like we did a bag of tortilla chips and a little thing of salsa, and it was like nacho average agent and, you know, just a little thing. We did a little thing of like barbecue seasoning and like the cheap little tongs, with something about like the sizzling, you know, market or your sizzling, can't remember, but just cute stuff like that too, the pop-bys. And I had a past client, they had bought a home. Their intention was to make some repairs to the home and then rent it out. And then eventually like really renovate the home and retire and move into it like 10 years down the road. Well, their financial situation had changed. I wasn't aware of that. The wife had lost her job and was having some health problems. And they were in a much bigger, nicer home, but it also had stairs. The main bedroom was not upstairs. So the home was more expensive. She was having some health issues. Stairs had become a problem. I did a pop by. I just dropped it off. She didn't answer the door, so I texted her and I just said, hey, just want to let you know I left something on your porch. Hope you guys are doing good. And she was like, oh my gosh, I was upstairs and I couldn't get to the door fast enough. I've been meaning to call you. We need to sell our house. I'm like, hello. You know? So we turned around, we listed her house in like 2 weeks and got her house sold. So, you know, just things like that where it's like, oh, I've been needing to call Tana, or I've been needing to call somebody, you know? And so just doing those things and, you know, having something that was more personal. And they actually had said too, so when I helped them buy the house that I helped them buy, it was a listing of one of my partners and it was a sign call. And like whoever they knew wasn't available to show them the home. My partner was like, hey, somebody wants to see my listing. I'm not available. Can you go show it? Showed them the one house. They bought that house. Like it was a pretty, you know, easy transaction, but I earned their trust in it. And then I had kept in contact with them, you know, done all my follow-up, did the pop by, and they had said, we know so-and-so, they've helped us buy like 3 houses. We've always worked with them before, but we just felt like we'd get more attention from you. And so they listed their house with me. So just those, you know, just staying in contact, those little things really make a difference. Yeah. All right. Well, what do you kind of think? Like anything today that'll kind of, like as far as not, like we have some ideas of things you can do to generate leads and how you can follow up with leads. But what about like maybe just your systems in general, like anything you think you can or you need to do differently about the way you calendar things, like the way like, and maybe you guys are always already doing this. Are you like getting your lead gen on your calendar and you're sticking to it and you're sitting down and you're making the calls? I don't always do it 100%.
That's helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
Try doing it every day. 'Cause Cameron says like call in people every day.
Yep.
That's so hard.
Yep.
So I do twice a week. I do my
One
like
thing
phones.
too is
Mhm.
like to like, and you don't always have to do this, but like, in past sales jobs, one thing I do with my bullet call time is I'd have it blocked off, and if I was setting appointments and someone wanted to meet during that time, I wouldn't say no, I have like cold call time, but I'd say no, I could try to meet that. I have some other things going on. Would another time work?
Yep.
And if not, I would try to, or if it would, I would try my best to keep my full time like on a regular basis. So.
Yep, exactly. Like that should be treated as like your most important client. Yeah. And plus, when you're saying, oh, I have another obligation at that time, or I have another appointment, then like that's okay. Like people respect that and they understand, they want to see that you're busy. They don't want to be like, I can meet you anytime, anywhere, like we don't want to be that person either. Like we want to be flexible, we want to meet them. But yeah, like treat that time as like your most valuable client. And that's a commitment to yourself, and keep that commitment for sure. If it's not possible and somebody's ready to meet, like, you definitely can be like, oh, let me see what I can change around. Look at your schedule, find a new time to move that hour to. But yeah, some people love doing 1 hour a day, every day. Some people love doing a 3-hour block twice a week. And so it really just depends on what works best for you. So I usually will do I do my long block Monday mornings. I do like 3 hours Monday mornings. And then I have like a 2-hour session that I usually do like Wednesdays. And then I have 1 hour on Thursdays. And then I commit to myself that I'm doing 7 hours a week. And if I haven't done my full 7 hours a week, then I have a block on Friday that will but I'm like, oh, if I've already done it, I don't have to do it on Friday, So, but yeah, some people love doing it 1 hour a day. And there was a coach that came out for like a little mini boot camp a little while ago. And it was like the human brain, after like 46 minutes of doing the same thing, it is less productive. And so I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I was like, usually close to an hour, I'm like, all right, I need to walk to the restroom. I need to get up. I need to go say hi to Kelsey at the desk, whatever it is. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense to me. But other people, they just create their bunker. They just go 3 hours hard. They've got snacks in there, drinks in there. Uh-huh. So find what works for you, because you want to find what you will stick with. If you're blocking, 3 hours a day and you won't stick with that, or if you're blocking 1 hour a day and you won't stick with that, block to what you'll stick to. Yeah, and just make it consistent. That's going to be the biggest thing. Yep. All right, let's see. I talked a little bit about too, just holding yourselves accountable. And I think that's huge. I joined a team really early on. And so I kind of had that right from the beginning. Every Monday morning, we get on a little huddle, we set our goals for the week, we report on our goals for the previous week. And I have a mentor on my team, a coach. We meet once a week as well, and then it's how are your goals going? How close are you? What else do you have left to get done? And that's huge for me. It just really keeps me accountable. It's one thing if I have to tell myself I didn't do it. It's another thing if I have to tell my team I didn't do it, It's just funny. It's just how our minds work. So yeah, just even having, somebody you can text, and I send a screenshot of my calendar and I text that to my coach, and she's like, I don't even look at it. It's just, if you've done it, then I know you've time blocked, So, and it does. Sunday nights, if I haven't done my schedule, then Monday mornings, I'm like, oh, I want to hurry and send this to Sally before we all meet at 9 o'clock, And so I'm like, gotta get my calendar done. But just helps me be intentional and accountable. I think that's kind of with everything, if you're trying to do a workout program or something like that, when you're having to report to somebody besides yourself or show up for somebody besides yourself, it just really helps you stick with it. And these are some good things that you can do too. So having 10 conversations every day, adding 10 contacts a day, that's always something that was a little bit harder for me after I got my database, and I think for a little while I stuck to, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna add 10 contacts a week, because I was doing open houses a little more consistent too, so then between having some leads come from my website and doing some open houses, I was able to add about 10 contacts a week. That's probably something I need to ramp up again too. I'm I probably need to be getting some more unmets in my database, because I'm not adding 10 a week right now. And, you know, I need to have my face, my emails, my everything getting in front of more people. 10 handwritten notes a week, I think that's huge. Like if you can start that and stick with that, whether that means you're putting them in the mail or you're doing drop-offs, you know, to affiliates or past clients or anything else. And then social media engagement, that's big too. Just, it doesn't have to be anything spectacular. I think when you overthink it and you try to make it too big and stuff like that, you know, like every Tuesday you're here in a room like full of agents. Snap a picture and be like, team meeting was awesome today, you know, like whatever it is. And then, you know, do some personal things and stuff too. You don't want to make it all business. With social media, I had found that I was having some really good engagement, and then I was showing up on more people's feed and I was seeing more feed. Because what I started doing is I would go to my friend list and start alphabetically and just go through 10 a day. And so I click on their page and then I would just comment on their most recent post, or I would send them a message. And that's how I would do it, because we know how like the algorithms and stuff work. If you're not engaging with people, if you're not commenting on their stuff, they're not going to see your stuff, and vice versa. And so I had been so lazy with my social media and just kind of disconnected with it for long enough that like it was just full of lots of ads, or I'm only seeing the same people's posts over and over, right? So once I started going through my friend list alphabetically and commenting or sending them a DM, then my engagement went way up. Then when I was posting, they were seeing my posts. I was seeing their posts again. So then it was a lot easier to just like it or send them a DM or, you know, a message on their story or whatever. So that's something I would encourage, just because I saw a lot of good results from that. Just like go through alphabetically until you've been through everybody and then start over. So that you're just making sure you're, you know, sticking to that 10-5-1 rule, you know, every day, or at least maybe you're, you know, maybe you hate social media and you can do that like once a week. Make sure that you're doing at least that much once a week. Enrichments. And so I think this is just kind of talking about everything we've been talking about, just all of that lead follow-up that we're doing. And then you're setting those appointments from that follow-up. But ask for the appointments. You're not going to get it if you don't ask for it. So ask in person at the open house. If you have a good, really good rapport with somebody at an open house and they don't have an agent, offer to do a sit down. Home buying, like you're out at open houses and you haven't met with an agent. Have you heard about some of the new policies out there? Like, you know, I love working with first-time home buyers. I love to provide some education. I have an office in Orem. Is there a good time we could sit down and meet for like 30 minutes? So asking in person is huge. But then if you've met them in person and you can follow up with them the next week too, like, hey, you filled out my little survey. I noticed that you don't have an agent, but you're out seeing homes. Tell me about that. That's a great conversation starter. What are you doing out seeing homes when you don't have an agent? But you're not yelling at them. You're just like, why? Like, tell me what's going on here. Most of the time, I mean, obviously if somebody says, don't call me or whatever, you're going to wipe them out of your database. You're going to make sure, make a note that they are a do not call. If you're getting things like you're paying for leads or you're getting a list of expired listings and things like that, then it's going to have a notice on there that they're on the do not call list. So just make sure you're being mindful and aware of that and don't call them. People actually are kind of predatory in that way too. Like they will report and try to act on anybody that calls them when they're on the do not call list. So just be really careful with it. But if you're not like paying for a list of leads and stuff like that, you're probably not going to see that. So just if somebody says, don't call me or don't contact me, make sure you do that. Treat them like they're on the official do not call list. Let's see. I engage every conversation in the spirit of contribution, and people are happy to be in a relationship with me. So kind of one of those affirmations, right? Like we want to make sure we can say this and that it's true, and we want to make it true. So, you know, just always coming from a place of value, and people are happy to be around us that way too. Let's see. Let me just kind of skip ahead a little bit here. We'll come back to this. I just want to make sure I cover all of the content here. I would definitely do this today, kind of based on the conversations that we're having today. Make a list of 10 people that you can call today. So, or whenever your next scheduled lead generation time is. Make a list of the 10 people, like maybe you've had people come to your mind as we've been talking about the different ways that you can contact them. Make a list of them and start with either if you're thinking about, oh, this is a perfect person for me to send that video to, or whatever it is, like make a list of those top 10 people and do that today, whether it's a handwritten note or a video, whatever has come to your mind as we've been talking today, and just do it. And you're gonna do this when you're doing your lead gen. And then just updating your contacts too. I think that's really important. Are most of you using Command right now? So if you're using Command, I use a different system, but I think you can have them tagged as like a lead, as a nurture, as a sphere, those kind of things, right? So I think it's just really important in keeping yourself organized. You can be in a good habit of doing it now. So like when they're in your 8x8, like they're still a lead, right? We're trying to get them to transact or trying to figure out if they're ready to transact right now. Like they are a lead. Moving them to like nurture or sphere once you're done with that. Just because you're going to be able to keep yourself organized in your lead generation. You're going to know who needs their 8x8s. You're going to know who's on a 36 touch. You're going to know who's in your sphere that you're doing, you know, DT, D2, or whatever that looks like for you. But it is really important to keep that organized and then make sure you don't ignore any of your categories. I made that mistake in my first year. I started to get really good at organizing people, and I was probably putting too many people in like a nurture category. And then I kind of forgot about the nurture category. So I was like, I have all these people that I have not called. And that got brought to my attention like by my coach. She was like, you know, looks like you're doing a pretty good job. You're following up on leads. You're calling your sphere. You haven't called any of these people. Like when was the last touch you? And I was like, oh, I kind of forgot that was the thing. Like I forgot about my nurture category. So it was just a really good idea to keep your contacts organized, keep your database organized so that you can follow your systems and your processes. All right. Any like successes that you guys can think about where you've had reaching out to a lead or doing some of these things, or maybe something a little bit different? Oh, sorry, hit my mic.
The roller coaster, because like I cold called one of my old coworkers and she's living in a townhouse and she kind of told her I'm getting married. So we have this whole rapport built.
Yeah.
And then I started texting her after that phone call and it just like died off. I just stopped responding and now I'm like doing once a week text.
Uh-huh.
That just go completely unread.
Okay.
So I went from it being like, oh, this is a win, I'm gonna get my first sale in the first month, and then it just completely like deflated.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to recover that lead, or if I should just keep nurturing it and just like sending those reminder texts every week or every month, and just let her know I still exist.
Yeah.
Or
Well, I think you can change what you're doing, right? And you can be a little bit more like, hey, I don't want to keep bugging you. Like, I want to be here for you if you're needing and wanting to buy, but I definitely don't want to be pestering you. Like, is it worth having a conversation? Or, tell me what's going on. Like, you can totally just ask that. But I think too, like you have if you're like, okay, if she's not responding to text, then make sure you've called. And if she's not responding to either of those, like move on to some other form of contact, like write her a little note, send it to her. It's like, hey, I'm so excited for you. You're getting married. Like it was so good to connect with you again. I'm here for you, whenever you're ready, whatever it might be. Or a voice memo, like you're like, oh, she's not responding to my text, do a voice text. Like people love those. Yes, people love the voice text. So just record a little voice text and send that to her instead. So if you're not super comfortable doing a video, send the voice text to her. Just do something different. And you're like, okay, well, if whatever I'm doing is not working, I'm going to do something different. And who knows, like maybe she was just like looking at home prices and maybe she just got really Discouraged. Yep, lots of buyers are super discouraged right now. And you can even ask her that and say, hey, I know lots of buyers have been really discouraged with affordability right now, but I have some really good tools that we could talk about if you're interested in buying a home, you know? And then you can get a lender involved, talk about the best kind of loan programs, interest rate buy downs, you know? So like have conversations with other agents, be like, hey, what are some of the best rates you've seen your clients get recently? I have a client that's doing a buy down. It's a seller paid buy down. They just locked him in at 4.5%. Yeah, it's not even through a builder. Like it's not even a builder incentive. And so I want to like shout from the rooftops, I had a client that just got 4.5%, you know? I'm like, it's real. But people that aren't asking the questions or aren't engaging, aren't getting that information. So if you can find some way to get, like, what's her pain point? Is she discouraged because of prices? Is she just got too busy and doesn't want to think about it right now? Like she's planning a wedding and stuff or whatever it is. You said she's getting married, right? Oh, you're getting married. I was like, somebody's getting married. Yeah, but like find her pain point, like, you know, and maybe you just ask her like, hey, I haven't heard from you. I know lots of buyers have been discouraged because of affordability. Like, is it worth having a conversation? I have some really great tools I'd love to share with you, you know, but maybe do that in a voice text. So it's just something a little bit different. Just do it. Yeah, yep, just do it. I've actually started doing that if I have like, I may be sending a referral to a lender and like, I don't know, I'm older, it takes me longer to type out a text. Yeah, and if I want to give them some additional detail, so I've started doing that. I'll send them maybe like just the contact info, and then I'm like, hey, I just talked to so-and-so, I just got off the phone with her. She's gonna be a first-time home buyer. She's probably a ways out. They really want to save up a down payment. What was this one? I was like, oh, she just went back to work after being a stay-at-home mom for a few years. And they're renting from a family member really affordably, but they'd really like to get into a home in the spring or summer. Can you please give her a call? And that was my voice text. And the lender super appreciated that. So
Yeah, that'd be better than a text, because then it's just more personable. You
Yep.
hear the inflection of the tone and probably connects better with whoever you're talking to.
yep. So with this girl, like, hey, I was just thinking about you. We'd had a conversation. You're, you know, hoping to buy. Haven't heard back from you. I hope everything's okay. I know lots of buyers have been discouraged by affordability. Let me know what's going on with you. I have some really great tools and really great information for you. I'm just here for you. Yeah, so something like that. And then yes, don't let it get too discouraging. Like just change up what you're doing, stay in contact, continue to come to her from a place of value. And it's gonna be her or somebody else. And you keep doing the things that you need to be doing and it'll happen. Yep. Okay, anything else? Okay. All right, well, let's see here. Command and connect. Okay, so your next session is following up with leads, which we've talked a lot about today too. We're just getting to the end of time, so we're not gonna do like kind of the role playing or the actual making calls and things like that. I don't know, has anybody been doing any of that in Ignite, like having you actually break out and do your calls and stuff? I feel like there's usually enough that we talk about. Yeah, but I would say really like encourage you to like actually go do that. Yep. A like practice like role playing and stuff with each other and stuff too. Like maybe, you know, send him your first voice text and be like, hey, I'm doing my first recording. This is super uncomfortable, but I just wanted to send one to you first. Like just get the uncomfortable stuff out of the way. Use each other for that. Yeah. So whether it's role playing, like, you know, making calls and stuff, or sending a sample message, and then you can just say, you got any feedback? Hey, this is a video that I'm going to send to a client. Tell me if you have any feedback, you know, things like that. Just practice, 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 practice. So stick with it. Yeah, I've had my license actually, I'm not saying anymore that I'm a new agent. I was really stuck and I think that was in my mind. I'm like, I still feel like I'm a new agent. I'm still a new agent. And so I really tried to shift my mind away from that. I'll have had my license for 3 years this December. And I really am just doing the things that have been taught to me, that have been proven, that just really sticking with the consistency. And I'm doing more business than agents that have been doing it for 10 years. So I was able to leave my full-time job in 6 months. It was a challenge. It was hard. Like, I don't even know, but like looking back, I'm like, how did I do that for 6 months? I don't even know, but I just did it. And even now, like it's the long game with a lot of clients. And so, it's like 6 months from now, they're going to transact. That gets a lot easier to wait for that when you've got a couple of deals going on. So I totally get that. But I mean, just stick with it. You're in a good place. You guys have my number too. I'm happy to be a resource. I've sat in on like buyers consultations. I've done mock buyers consultations and stuff with people before too. Happy to be a resource. And like, I'm still new enough that I remember what it's like to be brand new. And so I am happy to be a resource anyway. So yeah, but appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Yes, you bet. Thanks, guys.